I'm Mary Kopczynski. I have a J.D. and a Ph.D., and I have been the founder of a regulatory consulting company for the last 10 years that competes with Ernst & Young, Deloitte, to help the largest banks in the world deal with their regulatory crisis management. So, here's your pop quiz from the teacher. How many regulators do you think there are in the United States? 51? Maybe 100? 250? What do you think? Believe it or not, there are over 1,000 regulators in the United States. California alone has 175 agencies. So, if you're in charge of making sure that your company is following all the rules, how are you going to do it? Well, thankfully, there is now RegAlytics, which is our platform that delivers regulatory data as a service. We have started with a US alerts tool, which means we scrape over 8,000 websites every night and deliver in your inbox at 6 a.m. every single rule that has to do with financial services that came out yesterday. We are trying to raise customers and capital so that we can move on to international alerts. And we don't want to stop and be like all of our competitors where we cover regulators. We want to issue Canada alerts. And we want to crush Canada like Canada has never been crushed before. And then we want to get into the offshore Cayman Islands, Channel Islands, where all the hedge funds are operating. And eventually, let's talk about UK. I mean, just UK alone with Brexit is insane. We are trying to build a really easy to use interface so that you can go in, pick the alerts you want to follow and the types of subjects, but even more important, you can create reports for other people in your company so that not everyone has to know everything about regulations. You get to know the regulations you care about. And then eventually, we want to build API systems that massive companies can plug into and trade directly off our structured data sets. Our biggest competitor right now is Thomson Reuters. Everyone in the industry hates them. That's true. They cover over 1,000 global regulators. They're $90,000 a month for a large enterprise license. But worse, they take no responsibility for the data. They're merely a fire hose of every regulator out there. RegAlytics, in contrast, has a bunch of nerds like me that invest a lot of time in understanding the individual rulemaking process of each regulator so that we can deduplicate unnecessary alerts. But it's really easy to use and build reports for other people. We are trying to be 10 times more affordable and 10 times better, so we're charging $80,000 a year, and we already are scraping over 1,000 US regulators in our current product. We had a beta test with over 166 companies testing. That included all 10 of the top 10 financial institutions, the regulators including the CFTC, FINRA, SEC, OCC, all of them. And we have our first 2 big customers as of last week. And that includes the New York Stock Exchange, so we're very, very excited about that. And we are in active discussions with every major player on Wall Street. Our target market, we did a beta that was pretty wide because we didn't really know who we were going to focus on. We're in the middle of a law firm beta test. We have 25 users at 19 law firms. Our next target are chief compliance officers of regional banks and broker-dealers, and then trading researchers. And why? Because I think already if you use our report, you can make money trading off the new rules coming out because you know who's going to get hit first. Compliance for financial institutions is going to come once we cover global, because that's one of the big requests of our beta testers. And our team is me and a bunch of insanely smart people, including a lawyer who codes Python. I love them dearly. And we are looking for a series of advisors I especially am looking for people with understanding of regulatory data as a service, which doesn't actually exist yet. So if you have anyone with experience at Thomson Reuters, Bloomberg, I would love that. We are also looking for better marketing strategies because as smart as we are, we're not as great as communicating. And pricing, how you go about pricing something for large organizations versus small ones. My attorney advised me that I cannot talk about the offering, and since I am selling a regulatory product, I probably should follow the rules. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Questions. So I used to be in my past a chief compliance officer for environment, health, and safety, and had to have 4 lawyers with me at all time. How are you, with this RegTech, going to displace those lawyers?
Well, it's very similar to what Expedia did to travel agents years ago. If you think about it, 10 years ago, if you wanted to go somewhere else, you had to call this strange, awkward middleman to understand what hotels there were. And that was eliminated because all of a sudden at the touch of your fingertips, you knew exactly how much it cost and where it was located and where the address and even a picture of the hotel was. That's what RegAlytics is doing. It's homogenizing disparate data into one really easy, usable and understandable space. And while yes, I do have a JD and a PhD, I promise you, any ordinary human can understand this stuff and know what you have to do. So this puts compliance at the fingertips of everyone at your organization.
So I'll ask another question real quick. As a compliance being your focus, why are you going to law firms first for beta? Why wouldn't you go to the compliance officers first?
I'm really glad you asked that because I ignored law firms because I feel like lawyers being trained in the industry, it's supposed to be cool to be against technology when you're a lawyer. Like it's part of their culture. You know, we still use books and flip phones. So our initial beta test avoided all lawyers, but we had a couple lawyers test it just for posterity, and right afterwards we had a partner call me and say, I'm coming to your office, I don't even know you, but you're gonna have to talk me out of investing. And we had a number of investors that insisted we go after law firms. So out of respect and coaching, we went after the law firms, and I don't think the lawyers are getting it. So I think we're gonna move on to our next target because they specialize in specific areas of law, and no one's thinking about regulation across all 50 states.
So you had looks like a really successful beta. Can you talk about the biggest areas of feedback you received from all those customers, and also talk about the conversion of those? I know you've got a couple that are paying, and what's the rest of the conversion look like from them?
So of the beta testers, we have roughly 60 or so of them that filled out 5 different surveys along the process of different things that they liked and disliked. The 2 key takeaways, number 1, for the global, they absolutely need international alerts. So just it only covering the US is a non-starter immediately. That's why we're targeting the bank broker dealers, because they still have to deal with a lot of 50-state insurance law, and most of their customers are within the 50 states. The second piece they all said is, I don't need all of this, I want to be able to customize it. So the user interface is of critical importance.
All right, thank you very much.